What is going on, guys? It's Cameron and we are returning to the Amazing Spider-Man series, this time with issue 8. Now, I know that I'm a few issues behind. I think I'm either 1 or 2 issues behind just because of my university work, but we're going to catch up on those. Now, in the previous issue, we saw Lian Tang, I think her name is, if I remember. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We discovered that she's actually going to go up against Spider-Man because her mother is dying and she needs the treatment for her mother, and the only way to do that was to work with the Zodiac. And it also means that she's also a mole in Parker Industries, giving away their secrets and their plans and everything to the Zodiac. So yeah, she's in some deep trouble right now, and we're going to see that play out in this issue. Now, without further ado, guys, let's get into this issue, let's get into this review, and let's go! So, opening up this comic, we're pretty much picking up right from where the previous issue left off, with dealing with the aftermath of what went down, sorting out the people that were affected by Mr. Negative shade drug, and of course we already know that Spider-Man has developed an immunity drug to this, you know, to counteract the effects. And picking the comic up right up off the bat, it almost feels like this saga, you know, like this storyline is pretty much going to be over in this issue just from the beginning of it. Like, we're getting up to the final act of this Mr. Negative saga, I would say. So what I'm actually looking forward to is what we're going to get next. Who is the next villain that we're going to be introduced to? Because I know that we haven't really seen Mr. Negative recently in the Amazing Spider-Man comics, so maybe we'll get a villain that we haven't seen in a while again? I don't know, it's just something to look forward to. So going through this comic, one thing that I did notice quite a lot of were spelling mistakes. Now, that's not usually something that you get in comics, like, because obviously everything's computerized and spell checked and all that stuff. But in this comic, there are a few spelling mistakes. For instance, one of them is about to come up on screen right now, and Spider-Man actually says, question is will, and in the writing in the box it says question is wheel, and that's kind of like, it seemed a little bit of like an amateur move as a writer, but obviously that's just something that's gone wrong in the like the mistakes section of like creating comics or whatever. Now, the last time we saw a mistake in a comic book, as for what I remember, was back near the Spider-Verse when it's shown Jessica Drew and Miles Morales standing next to a grave, and instead of it saying Ultimate Spider-Man 1610 Universe, it said Ultimate Spider-Man 160 Universe or something like that. It was really weird. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys to show you that even the best of comics make spelling mistakes, even though they're all computerized. Like, obviously they're sketched out, but then they're put into the like computer, they're scanned in. Mistakes still happen. Now, as for the humour in the comic, and of course that's always there in a Spider-Man comic, but I loved how it was delivered by Spider-Man himself, especially when he jinxed himself, saying that everything was going according to plan, and then his spider sense went off, and it was Lian Tang with the Spider-Mobile that was there to kill Spider-Man, and that's just like the biggest kick in the face ever, when one of your allies turns against you. Now, one thing that I was very, very confused about, maybe I've just completely forgot about this, or maybe I've just missed it altogether, but Spider-Man says, my girlfriend, and that's kind of like, what is Lian Tang Spider-Man's girlfriend, like Peter Parker's girlfriend? I'm really confused. If I remember correctly, I think we knew that in the first issue, but I can't quite remember because it's been like a few months now, so obviously I'll have to go back and check that. But as of right now, I was confused about that. Going over to Cloak and Dagger, you can see that Spider-Man outwitted Cloak and used a tracking device on the Spider Tracer for the dart to cure Cloak, and that's just awesome. And I have to say, it really felt like you was in safe hands again because Spider-Man now has his teammate back. Like, all of a sudden, you don't feel like it's Spider-Man against everyone anymore. And I loved it how Cloak took it upon himself to sort Dagger out, you know, kind of cure her as well. I thought that was brilliant. And as for Quinn Guao, or I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, but I was actually really surprised with how fast he spilt the beans on him being like an ex-gangster. Like, I thought he might have actually denied that, but of course, Mr. Negative was probably using his powers to make him confess all of his, like, law-breaking in the past. Especially since he jumped out of a window just because Mr. Negative told him to. And I think it really adds emotion to the comic when Lian Tang isn't actually a bad person, and Spider-Man knows that it's because of her mother, and she kind of just changes and, like, what's the word? Deep down, she's actually a hero, so when this guy comes falling out the window, she just risks herself to save this guy's life without even hesitating. And I thought it was absolutely awesome, phenomenal, brilliant when Spider-Man was diving after them. And of course, his spider sense didn't go off, so that means Cloak and Dagger are there to help him out. And I thought that was just brilliant how they kind of all teamed up again to save this guy. And I loved how understanding Spider-Man / Peter Parker was about Lian Tang doing this for her mother, because obviously Spider-Man's been there before himself, so he can relate to that. The art style was also pretty good. I'm actually really fond of how Spider-Man is drawn in these comics. It kind of reminds me of the Amazing Spider-Man out of the Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions game. just kind of the art style, that kind of smooth finish over Spider-Man's costume. I don't know what it is, but it looks awesome. Now, coming up to the final 2 pages of this comic, it does a brilliant job of setting up Mr. Negative to return in the future, but to be honest, I don't really want him to return in the future. I don't really think he's that much of an interesting character in terms of his whole motivation to take over the city and everything like that. Like, really, he just wants revenge. That's kind of like such a cliche thing for a villain, but Mr. Negative in general, like his powers and his power set and his color scheme is awesome. So next time we see him, hopefully it won't be for revenge, but he'll have like an actual thing, like an interesting thing that he wants to do instead of just revenge. And I think it'll be interesting to see Cloak and Dagger team up with Spider-Man once again. And I'm looking forward to finding out what's going to happen with Lian Tang and how they're going to save her mother, because Peter Parker did say that he was going to figure out how to do it. But as for the city of China and Shanghai and all of that, I hope to God Spider-Man goes back to New York soon, because I am bored of being in Shanghai. It is, I don't know what it is, but I just can't relate to Spider-Man as much when he's in a different country. Considering that we've basically all grown up with Spider-Man being in New York, and New York is so recognizable to many of us. I mean, sure, I know what Shanghai looks like, but I don't really relate to that city as much as I do with New York, so hopefully we go back there soon. What did you think? Let me know in the comment section below. We can discuss this comic down there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So I'm just going to give this issue a 7 out of 10, meaning that it was kind of average. Like, it was a good average, probably more like a 7.5, but I don't do 0.5s really, so yeah, the story was pretty good. Mr. Negative's agenda to like get revenge is kind of a little bit like villain cliche, as I've already said, but the art style was brilliant, and Spider-Man's dialogue and the humor that came out of it was pretty good as well. Spelling mistakes aren't really a major thing, but it still contributes to the score, so yeah, that is it for this video. But if you want to know what's going on with my videos, what video is being uploaded, or if you want to let me know what comic you would like me to review next, whether it's Ultimate Spider-Man or The Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2099, tweet at me on Twitter, because you can pretty much change my choice of review. Let me know what you want to see next on there, so go check that out. Link is in the description. And of course, follow me on my Facebook page to get all the updates on the latest comic book news. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you all in my next video.